Well, fall has finally arrived, and it's been kind of an interesting one this year. It looked like fall colors were going to come early, and then it got really warm, and then they were delayed, and now it's kind of a mix of different stuff. So I was going to do this video last week, and one of the things that really helps in most places is there's some sort of resource you can go to see what the fall colors are doing. Here in Minnesota, the Minnesota DNR puts out a daily update, and when I looked at the map last week, it looked kind of like this. And there really wasn't much close by to where I was. I could maybe drive a couple of hours and maybe find something. So I decided to put it off a week and come out today. And when I looked at the map yesterday, this is what I saw. And so it looked like Banning State Park, which is where I'm at today. It's just the picnic area right off of the parking lot. Looked like it was going to be a pretty good location, that 50 to 75% range. That's typically where I like. Some people like that 75 to 100, but I like to have a little bit of mix between some trees that are turning and some that haven't quite gotten there. Also, just past peak, I also find is a good time to go as well. One of the things I will be using today is a polarizer. I'll be talking more about that a little bit later as to how to go about using one of those. Some people find them a little bit tricky. They can't tell if they're doing anything or not doing anything. I'll show you kind of a neat little trick you can do just looking through the viewfinder to tell if your polarizer is actually all the way polarizing or part of the way. And sometimes you just want to go part of the way as opposed to all of the way. Sometimes you get kind of just a little bit too much saturation, especially with the blue sky. Today we've got a really blue sky. There's very few clouds up there at all. So really are going to need to be careful to make sure it doesn't look too blue. But we'll talk about that when we're out on the trail. So today we're going to basically just walk the trails, see what we're going to do. We'll be looking for detail shots. We'll be looking for establishing shots and everything kind of in between. One of the shots I like to try to get, but is very difficult, is that of falling leaves. It is a little windy today, so maybe we'll get a little bit lucky with that. So we'll see. Looking at some of these leaves, like this one over here, you can see it's really got kind of, part of it's turned, part of it's not. And so I think that does, make a pretty interesting subject. And depending upon where you are, either shooting through them, or sometimes I like to come around and shoot them from the other side. Having them nicely lit by the sun, I think really kind of helps. It is pretty windy here today, so you can see they're moving around quite a bit. But I think I'll play around here for a little bit and see what I can come up with. One of the things that I look for when I am trying to find a nice fall scene is something where the viewer can picture themselves in that spot. And this little boardwalk does a really nice job of kind of answering that question or filling that requirement. And I really wanted to try to shoot this vertically just to try to get in more of the trees, but the problem that I ran into is that when you look at that upper right hand corner, you've got those tree branches, and this is in 16 by 9. When you go to 2 by 3, it gets even worse. What I really needed to do was just move a little bit closer, and maybe instead of thinking vertically, think more horizontally. And so these are the shots that I came up with from that. So for this first shot, I got down really low, and what that allows is for that boardwalk to take up less vertical space, so it looks like it goes deeper in, and so I think that actually makes for a much more interesting photo. So a lot of times with paths I like to get as low as possible. I then went around to the other side just to get a little different lighting and to see what that looked like. And for this one, I ended up being a little bit higher when I took this, mainly because of some other distractions that came in when I got down low. And I wanted to see what other angles I could get, and there were some that I tried, didn't quite work out, but then I noticed that there was another trail up above that kind of looked down, and so I thought that would be kind of interesting too, and so that's where this third shot was taken. One thing that you'll hear people say quite often is that using a polarizer can really help bring out the colors. One question I get asked is, well, how can I tell if the polarizer is really doing anything? If you have a blue sky like this, if you point it towards the sky, as you turn that ring, you can really see the effect that it's having. Now, of course, this is going to be different when you point the camera someplace else, but if you turn it to full polarization, some things kind of happen that maybe aren't desirable. So you notice the sky got really dark, and that can be a bit of a problem because it just doesn't look natural. Also, it's not really even going all the way across, and that's just because of where the light source is. So just turning that dial a little bit can make a little bit of a difference. What I like to do also is just watch the meter. So being in manual mode, you notice that the meter moved off to the left as I was turning it, not really changing the camera settings at all. But the other thing you have to think about once you have dialed in the amount of polarization that you want is if you are in manual mode, you'll need to adjust your settings to get your exposure back to where you want it so that you don't end up with an underexposed photo. And if we just look down a little bit here, we can really see that in the trees, it's really dark, and so we don't want those tree trunks to be quite that dark. So just making a little bit of an adjustment with the exposure, just opening it up a little bit, can go a long way towards getting you that result that you want. You'll still have those saturated colors, but it won't be quite as dark. And so here are two photos side by side, one that is polarized, one that's not polarized, so that you can see the difference between them. Both have been adjusted for tone and exposure to get that look that I was going for. And you can see that the polarized one is just a little bit richer. So overall, it was a great day to be out here in the park. I think I got a lot of really nice photos. So see what they look like when I get back to the computer. I also hope that you enjoyed the tutorial on using a polarizer and to see when they're effective and when they're not effective. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to know about future videos, go ahead and subscribe. There's also a notification bell that you can hit as well, and you'll be notified when I post something new. Thanks. Bye.